Hi everyone, my name's Rachael Merrick. I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in southeast Queensland, Australia. Today I am joining, I'm very honoured, to be joining the global monthly video hop on YouTube. A group of demonstrators from all around the world that come together every month, create video content highlighting some of the great things you can do with Stampin' Up products, and this month's theme is fun folds. So fun folds are one of my most favorite things to make. They create an element of surprise or interaction in your card, so this will be a fun one to join along with. Today's hop, I have used some of the new elements out of the mini catalogue that's coming out in January, full of some beautiful sweets and bundles, and today I have used the Hearts and Home stamps and papers. So my fun fold is a pop-up. So when you open it up, it does pop up. There's plenty of room here for a chalk pen to write inside your card as well, if you choose to use the same colours as me. This is the new stamp set, Blessings of Home, and I hope you join along with me. Let me know in the comments below if you do happen to make a card, or send me a quick little link and I will come over and check it out. I would love for you to hop along with us. Thanks very much, and don't forget to like, comment and share, and pop over to the other ladies as well. So a couple of things that we are using today is, like I said, the Blessings of Home and the Heart and Home set. So we're going to start off with a Papaya cardstock. You will notice that there is a lot of captions within my video, and that's to cater for some of my customers which are hearing impaired. So we're going to take a soft succulent base as well, a matting, sorry, and the, I call it a B-side, the wooden print of some of this DSP. I'm going to put all of the measurements into the post below of this video so that it's easy for you to recreate later on. So, but I use liquid glue when I am doing my card making. It's a really great product of Stampin' Up, not expensive at all. A little bit goes a long way. So I have matted that DSP, and now I'm taking a strip of the in colour 6x6 DSP, which in the evening evergreen on the checkered side, and I'm going to clip a little banner end into this. So this is going to take up probably about 7/8 of the length of my DSP matted piece, and you'll see me just placing it on here just so you get an idea of what it's going to, the length that it needs to be. The next part of my card is an A side, so one of the patterned sides, and it's the floral. It's got Papaya and a few other colours in it from the in colours, and I'm matting that back onto a piece of Papaya, and it just makes that matching element of your card feels like it flows a little bit better. You can see that I stick it down with the glue across the back of my matted piece, and I think that's one thing that people forget, is that they add lots and lots and lots of glue, and you don't need lots, you just need to sort of spread it over so it will sit. So here we go, and we are going to place our strip down as well with the banner. So you can see the beginning elements of my card, and really all I now need to add is from this stamp set an image, which I have already pre-cut and stamped, and also the sentiment. And I really like this sentiment: you're a real blessing to everyone around you. So let's have a bit of fun with colouring. So some of my videos in the past have shown how I colour, and I colour in layers, and that's to give a depth of colour. I've used the Papaya and also soft succulent in this one. I didn't want to use evening evergreen, it was a little bit too dark for my liking. So you'll see there are two ways of doing this. You can start with the lighter, and then you add some dark and add lighter again, and I do that with the Papaya flowers. But then when I go on in a moment to my greenery, I start with the darker colour. and then I just add light, and then I think add another layer or two of the light as well. That's what I really like about stamping blends, is that you can layer it up and it does give a really good effect. So use your I don't know, shaded elements that's already went in your stamp. You can see kind of like shading in your petals, and just go over those areas with your darker and colour, and that will kind of give that depth as well. I have sped this part of the video up just a little bit, purely because it is a little bit boring just sitting and watching, and all my videos with colouring are sped up. So here we go with the soft succulent now. So I start with the lighter one and then add the dark, and then go back in with a bit more light. You just need to use feather strokes. Now for larger areas I do use the brush end, but for smaller areas, which in this image there's quite a lot of smaller areas, I will use the bullet end. It's entirely up to you. The brush end seems to wear out or get frayed a lot quicker than the bullet end, probably because I use them also to colour in my basic rhinestones as well, which is a great tip. Not in this card, but it is a great tip that you can use that brush end and go over those rhinestones, and being alcohol ink based, they will colour those rhinestones beautifully. So, and that is pretty close. I'm just going to add a little bit more layering, but that kind of gives you the idea of how I colour and how I create that depth. And it's a really good idea to leave lots of sort of white space right to the end, and then colour right to that white space, and even just leave a few little flecks of white. I did come back in and use the lightest of the Saffron as well, just for the centres, just because the starkness of the white just didn't look right. And I'll be honest, I didn't reference any particular flower to create this image as far as colour goes, but I did want it to match my card, and it's probably the one thing that I do love about Stampin' Up is that match to match to match. So your inks match your cardstock, which match your DSP, which matches all your other elements as well. And that's probably my biggest love of Stampin' Up, is that I don't have to overthink it. I don't have to spend ages trying to get the right colour to match the right element that I'm using on a card. And you will notice that I have stamped on both sides of my basic white cardstock for my sentiment, and that's because the first one didn't come out the way I wanted it. Some of my ink pads are still pretty new, so they are quite juicy, and that then seems to be that they get a little bit oversaturated on the stamp, and when you stamp it down, they don't quite give the crispest of image. So I've just got to remember to tap on that ink pad very, very lightly. Now you will notice here I'm playing with where to put the floral element. I didn't want to put it upside down. I really liked where my sentiment was here, but then I just realized it just is not going to work. So part of this card is using some of those dimensional dots, and that's just to bring it up off the page, so to speak, and it really does add interest. It makes those elements and that layering just a little bit more interesting to the eye. So dimensional dots are super popular. I have those little white bits that you pick off so that it is sticky. They are everywhere in my craft room. So here is me changing my layout. So I am putting the floral element on the left hand side after all, and then my sentiment basically can just layer over the very edge of that stamped image. And because they're both on dimensional dots, they are the same height, but they will layer quite well. And the good thing about dimensional dots is they actually can peel off. If you haven't pushed them down too hard, you can peel them off and reposition them so that if you've got one slightly in the way, then you can pull it off and move it so that it you can get your positioning correct. Now, our final part of this outside of the card, which I know is not a part of the fun fold, but it is a part of the fun. So we're going to adhere it to the card base, and that is our basic layout done for the front of the card. And of course, front of the card is the first thing you see, so it's important, and it gets a lot of attention. So now we're on to the inside, and this is the fun fold part. So I'm using a little bit of origami to create this, and it's really quite simple, and once you work it out how, you can use all different sizes, but for today we are using a 5x5 DSP square. Now you can see that this is the same as what's on the outside of the card, so it does match. You get that flow through from the inside to the outside. And from side to side, I'm going to fold it into quarters. So there's my first fold, I unfold it, I fold it again, and they're squares of quarters, if that makes sense. So you've got 4 squares in there. Then I'm going to take just one edge, and then I'm going to fold it into 2 large triangles. Now this is going to create your folding element, because next I'm going to very gently ease, this is why I haven't used a bone folder, ease those 2 edges in that have the crease through the center of the square, and I'm going to ease them in and create that origami fold. So if you're not sure, go back, rewind the video, watch it again, have a few practices before you do. It's an easy one to do, and you can see this will pop out like that in the card. Now the reason I pop that on there is so that I can see whereabouts it's going to cover when the card opens and where it doesn't. And the reason being is I am going to do some background stamping. Now if you've watched any of my videos or follow my blog or Instagram or even Facebook, you will notice a lot of my cards have background stamping using Versamark. I love that you can create this very subtle effect as a big pattern behind things. Or I love the idea that Versamark ink changes and puts like a shadow on pretty much any cardstock. So you're going to get tonal elements on your cardstock without a lot of effort. And of course, Versamark does not make a mess everywhere, which is a great bonus as well. So here I am, I'm just going round and round. You could actually use the tone on tone stamping, so you could have got the pale papaya and you could have done all this stamping, but I was looking for something really subtle that's not going to take away from the pop-up element that you will see at the very end of the video. It doesn't take long if you use a really big background stamp like this one. Now this image is amazing. It's from one side to the other and the top to the bottom, you get a good variety of florals, and that's why you see me turn the ink, the stamp block several times, and it is hard to see in this video, so I do apologize, but that stamping is there, very subtle, but it is there, and that's going to allow my little folded element to sit in the middle of that and be surrounded by this very subtle patterning behind it. Now I'm going to line up this fold and I'm going to adhere it in. Now this is not as tricky as it sounds, but the biggest tip would be, please do not use too much glue and don't put both sides down at once. You do need to leave the tiniest slither of a gap in that center so that it will fold out. And I'm just kind of realigning it there and pushing it down and then folding it back up, and you can see it's right on the centerpiece, and it's probably got 1 millimeter, if you're metric like me, 1 millimeter's worth between the inside fold and the corner there. A little bit more glue, it looks like a lot, but it's very thinly put on, and give it a hold for a couple of seconds just to get that to set, and be very careful opening it for the next minute or so whilst the glue's setting. But there you go, you get the idea. It does fold completely open if you pull the card completely open. It's not as fun, but anyway. So I have used the same stamped image on the front as I'm going to use on the inside, and I'm going to keep the inside, as far as embellishment goes, very simple. It is literally going to be a stamped image, which you're going to see me colour in again now, and I am doing it, I'm starting with the dark in this time in my soft succulent, in the darker colour, and then I just go through, and I have sped this up just so that you're not sitting there watching me for 5 minutes. Colouring is something that, like I said, I've done many, many times before. It takes practice. There is no such thing as being perfect. So you just have to kind of go with it and see how you go. And just keep adding. And you probably didn't notice, but when I did use the Saffron in the very first colouring image, I literally added it to the centres, but then I went back and any of those little white flex spots that I was talking about, especially on your leaves, I did go back and add some of that yellow as well, because that's what it naturally does. It wasn't dark enough for me, so I added a little bit more just to get that layering right. Now this is going to be popped down on the right hand side in the bottom corner. I just adhere it down again with a bit of that adhesive glue. The Tombow glue is amazing. You're probably going to hear me say it 1,000 times. Now I have stamped one of the sentiments which says, "Thank you for inspiring me." I did not want the inspiring me part. I just wanted the thank you. So I just get my scissors and cut it down. And I'm not probably the straightest of cutting people, but that's okay. I just cut it down so you get your sentiment as close as you can, and then I layer it a little bit. You can see me fiddling with it here, just so that it does sit on one side. So that's the only thing when you're doing this kind of card with a pop-up element. You've got to ensure that it will close before you stick things down, particularly towards that center section. So you can see me doing that there. And the final part is to finish the card with some of the die cut elements. So the bundle comes with these gorgeous little dainty dies, and I've cut out several in the Papaya. Again, I want the element there, but for it not to stand out too much. So here is my tip when it comes to gluing these sorts of little fiddly things down. Put a little dollop of glue onto a scrap piece of cardstock and just dip the ends in, and then pop them down just with a little bit of pressure. Now you can go back later and add more adhesive if you like to the rest of that element, but really to begin with you just want that end piece to stick to wherever you have put it so it stays put. You don't want to be using tons and tons of glue. You don't want it to have to sit there for an hour and dry, not that the Tombow glue takes that long to dry, but just play with where you place those elements. They are dainty, they are subtle, but what you are wanting is to basically have that feeling of it popping out from behind your pop-up element, so that when it's opened, it's still there, it's still got dimension, which is another reason I actually didn't end up gluing the rest of it down. It literally is just stuck there with that little tiny bit of adhesive that's on the end of each one. And you just want it to be, like, you can add more, you can add less, it doesn't really matter, but you kind of want it to be underneath, supporting that pop-up, and that gives you a really nice feel to the pop-up section as well. And we are pretty much done. So thanks for joining me, everybody. It's been really fun. This is my first hop with the global video people, and it has been lots of fun trying to come up with something creative. So don't forget to like, comment, share, and also to check out all the other blogs, the videos and blogs as well. Thanks very much. We will see you next month.